So we have Andy. Now, Andy, I'm not going to say your name right because I'm really bad with last names. Everybody knows that. I'm going to take a shot at Raichle? Not going to do it.
Yeah, Andy Raichle.
Raichle.
Andy the engineer is good. Andy
the engineer. Sounds like a kid's cartoon. The little engine that could. So you're VP of the Matrix New World Engineering. Now tell them what this stands for, New World Engineering.
Yeah, so we focus on sort of the new world problems we have. So we focus a lot on flooding and climate change and heat islands and finding water for people out in Arizona. So that's our mission, and we've got about 200 engineers spread out across the country solving those problems.
Yeah, because, I mean, there's something has been bothering me now for a couple of weeks when I read it. It said the world's going to be finished in about 1 billion years. I'm like, don't tell me there's an end.
Well, I don't want to hear that. I can't wait.
I don't want to hear that. Tell me that there's hope because we have places like Matrix. I mean, Frank, you just talked about flooding. So here's a company that's going to tell you what you need to do not to have that. Yeah,
well, I guess you have to protect against what's coming because we've had more severe storms. And as a matter of fact, I was reading yesterday, there's a island off of between Maryland and Delaware down there where these people have lived for all these years. And because of erosion and everything else, within about 50 years, it'll be gone. Because the rising water and the fact that there's a lot of erosion going on.
What is Matrix going to do about that?
Yeah, so there's a lot of problems like that, right? We're getting with erosion, kind of getting pushed into smaller and smaller spaces. But really, you've got to think about this from a global perspective, which is this whole green energy movement. Is to just let's see if we can at least, if we're not going to turn the tide, let's try to stop what's going on. And one of the ways that's happening is green energy and offshore wind in New Jersey, and just sort of bringing it home is that's an area where we've been leaders and kind of recognized throughout the country and the world right now is what's going to happen over the next 10 years with offshore wind.
Yeah, we're hearing a lot about the offshore turbines and all that stuff going on. You hear some positive and some negative, and some people say that by the time you transport it to where it needs to go, you lose so much of it. What's the real deal on that? Because I know they're going to start building them offshore. Well, first of all, are we going to see them when we're on the shore? Most of it's going to be in the Monmouth area? Is that where they're putting them up? Or
so they're ultimately going to stretch from Maine to Florida, but they're sufficiently offshore that you won't see them for the most part. Maybe occasionally, but nothing closer than like 12 miles out. So they're going to, if you see them, they're going to look like little matchsticks on the horizon. So I don't think that's a huge concern. I think the bigger concerns have been related to fisheries and some other things. But, construction's going to start soon. People are starting to build ports, and the state of New Jersey's partnered with PSE&G to build the nation's first Windport, which is going to go down in Salem, New Jersey, next to the PSE&G power plant. And it's a big deal. I mean, it's going to serve... So we use these words, these old-fashioned words of marine engineering. It's going to be within a day's steam of about 70% of the East Coast wind potential. So yeah, big deal. You're going to see a lot of jobs.
Yeah, I think it's amazing. How deep is the water out there they're putting these things in?
Hundreds of feet, but it's on the continental shelf, so we're not into the area. For those that are not familiar with it, there's the old continent when sea level was lower. And there's a lower area, and then it drops into the real deep stuff. We're on the shallower stuff, but deep to you and I, a couple 100 feet deep.
And is there a reason why it goes in the water? I know, it doesn't bother people as much, but is it windier out in the ocean?
So it turns out New Jersey has the best wind resource in the country. So it just blows out there steady every day, almost every day. And that's why we've been the hotbed of this development. But yeah.
So why?
And also, it's not in your backyard, right?
Yeah. So does these wind
turbines?
The turbines. Now, there's been so much chatter that there's negative to it because of what it uses to build it, and it's not as cost effective, and just lots of chatter. But what is it going to do at the end result by putting this up along the whole shore? And is it going to be able to be there if a tornado or hurricane goes by?
Sure. Well, on the second point, they're definitely designed to withstand hurricanes, so wouldn't worry about that. On the net effect, the net effect is clear. It reduces greenhouse gases, which are a real problem, and that's yes, there are greenhouse gases emitted to produce these turbines and the foundations and the blades and all that stuff. But in the net, we'll have a green energy source that will go for decades, if not hundreds of years. We'll just need to keep maintaining them out there.
Now, you talked about the fisheries, and we know that there's overfishing going on, and I know there's a big turn for, getting rid of farms in general. The inhumane way that animals are treated, number one, and number two, the methane gas that's released from a lot of the cattle. I mean, do you foresee, I know there's so much out there now, it's much more acceptable, but do you see in the foreseeable future of, things that now that people are either vegetarians or pescatarians or vegans, they're eating fish and they can't keep the supply up. How are we going to, are they going to start, you think, to make something like an Impossible Burger with an impossible fish?
I think that's already coming, yeah, but certainly aquaculture is a big deal. And you're starting to see more species sort of be farmed like we farm cattle, right? As they put them inside pens and they grow that way as well, which, sort of everything there's a yin and yang and everything. So aquaculture also has its own environmental challenges. So this is where we need smart people to figure out how to do it in a way that doesn't, puts the least burden on the environment.
Yeah, and also find new ways for these fishermen to work, because their fear is, what am I going to do? How am I going to support my family if I can't catch fish? So, it's the same thing with farmers. So the farmers, I've noticed lately here in the Hudson Valley, that they've gone to growing hemp. So they've kind of reinvented themselves. A lot of them are out of the dairy business. They had been dumping milk for a while, and they said, what are we doing? This is crazy. Let's figure it out. Now they're growing hemp. So, I assume fisheries will, be able to do the same things, and fishermen.
So fishers and farmers, they're people that can adapt. So we'll see how they react, and whether it's hemp or whatever they're growing. I have a lot of faith in those folks. They're salt of the earth, and they're going to figure out what to grow to keep us healthy and full.
Another question: the solar panels that there's a school across the road from us, and they put up, I don't know, how many acres, Frank? I forgot. 10 acres, 20 acres of
I think
solar?
about 10, yeah.
And they've reduced their costs of electric of all the schools by $250,000 a year to start with. My question is, how long do those solar panels last, and what happens when they have to be recycled? Are they recyclable and replaceable?
Yeah, so the panels last a couple decades, but then they do need to be recycled, and there's all kinds of recyclable components. It's not all recyclable, but the metal and the glass and the photovoltaic elements are certainly in demand right now. And so it's really like everything else, right? Is there a market for it to make it worth somebody's while to recycle it? And as we move over the next kind of couple decades, these kind of metals are going to become more and more scarce, and so recycling is going to make it worth everybody's while. And
what are we going to do about plastic? I know that is big changes all over the U.S. about no more plastic bags, no more single-use plastic, but it's not moving fast enough for me, because even though there are places that say we recycle plastic, we had a gentleman on not long ago, Taylor from Montgomery, that said there's no way that they're recycling all this plastic and it's ending up in the ocean, and what do we do? Have we found a way to take all the plastic and make it into something else?
Well, no doubt. I'm done with plastic.
Yeah, me too.
I'll put my water in a reusable bottle, but it's so convenient, and people just keep putting that in the shopping center. And when it's $3 for a dozen or two dozen water bottles, people just buy it. It was great. I saw an article in Philippines has a really big plastic problem, and they're collecting their plastic out of the water and making it into plastic lumber. So it's going to take creative solution, but really the creative solutions are there. It's going to be about will. It's going to be about, am I willing to take the time to fill up my water bottle at home versus buying a water bottle at the 7-Eleven and a piece of plastic.
I would love a picture of a whale or a shark sitting in there with their stomach full of plastic, and then say, you make the decision.
Yeah.
Really?
Or maybe one sitting there right there as you pull it out of the fridge.
Yeah.
Saying, here I am.
It's just, it's abominable when I see what's going on. People don't realize it because he was saying when there's no more dumps. I mean, it's on the ocean. It's in the ocean. They've run out of space. I was thinking back to my grandparents who used to burn garbage in their backyard in Connecticut. And because of all the emissions now, they stopped that. And I'm thinking, well, maybe we ought to go back to that, except for plastic, because you can't burn plastic.
Yeah, you can't. So plastics, like you recognize, huge problem. And believe it or not, we're among the best in the world about recycling our plastic. So it's third world countries, they're having huge issues with that and contributing a lot of plastic into the ocean.
Isn't it amazing that for centuries we didn't have plastic and we managed to live? I don't get this part. I mean,
Well, back in the day, though, Taylor, I believe there was a thing called tap water that you used to drink. And we didn't go out and buy stock water and
yeah,
things.
I'm with you. We are a very lazy
As
society.
kids, we didn't really go out and drink a lot of cans of soda or,
I drank no soda.
There was nothing in plastic, so it was a simpler
We
time.
are a lazy society. It's not simpler.
Well,
it's
look,
just that we're lazy
go
now.
to the just go to the section that sells beverages in the supermarket, and there must be like 1,000 different types of energy drinks and this and that. And a lot of it's in plastic, and that's because that's a convenient way to do it. So
how do we get this industry to stop because of the lobbying? That's my
But
question.
what are you going to change to is the question. Go back to glass or metal or what?
I would rather go back to glass or metal. Either one would be fine with me. I don't care.
So, guys, what you see in sort of my office or us as people like me is folks spend a lot of money and effort in treating our water and cleaning our water that comes out of your tap. And, we just can't believe that people would buy, buy water from Maine that gets trucked down here and put in plastic bottles.
Yeah,
when we spend all this effort to make our own water clean and delicious. So
yeah, defeats the purpose. Well, Andy, we have so much. We love talking to you because this is so important. I really want to have you on, periodically to refresh people's memory and see where everything's going, because I think the more people that learn about what's happening, what could happen if they change their habits, I think it's very important. If you affect one person, it's a domino theory.
absolutely, right? Especially kids. They look up to, if their parents are doing the right thing, they're going to,
Absolutely.
they're going to be able to make the difference.
100%. I know that for sure. I watch Mac uses a water bottle. He doesn't buy bottles of water, so I got one down.
All right.
One kid got to go. Listen, Andy, thank you so much for coming on. Matrix, New World Engineering, where can they get more information about this?
Yeah, Matrix New World, Instagram, Facebook, all that good stuff. We're pretty active on social media, and take a look at us and see what kind of exciting stuff we're doing.
Thank you so much. All right, we're going to have you on again in a couple of months. We'll see what's going on. We'll see the progress of this world, or at least the U.S., hopefully.
All right, everybody. Good morning. Great morning.
You too.
All right,
take care,
care.
Andy.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.